Season with a silly sausage, Ivo Graham. A silly so-and-so, Holly Walsh. A silly mid-on, Stephen K. Amos. And a sumptuous seasoning of Alan Davis. Their buzzers are all extremely silly. Ivo goes. Great. Oh, I like that. Yeah. Holly goes. Stephen goes. And Alan goes. It's silly season, so let's start with some silly questions. Now, we got these by feeding hundreds of questions taken from the QI database, which is called Blue Whale, into an artificial intelligence program, and we asked the program to come up with new questions in the same style. So this is artificial intelligence QI questions. First of all, what happens if a flamingo is your wife?
People are very judgy about it.
Flamingoist.
Flamingoist, exactly. And people talk about animal husbandry a lot, but they don't talk about birdwiffery a lot.
If a flamingo is your wife, probably the best option is to dress up as an egg, so you're guaranteed to get laid.
Here's a question for you, Alan. What is the best way to get a radiant complexion of trousering?
Well, you need to emerge from within the trouser sand.
I'm not a massive fan of the QI supercomputer with these.
No, but the question that it asked over and over again, which I'm extremely keen on, is how many legs does the Queen have?
She has one of her own legs, and then the other one's a sort of official leg.
Official leg.
Yeah.
So it asked over and over again, how many legs does the Queen have? And then suddenly announced, I'm naked. And it also answered one of its own questions. How did the Romans, was the question. And the answer was, nobody knows. So there's an American research scientist called Janelle Change, and she programmed similar sort of neural network to read existing love heart slogans. Do you remember love hearts, those little sort of sweets? So they're usually fairly tame. But she reprogrammed the AI to do it, and this is what it came up with. Loving horn, buns, 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 and all hail the chicken.
I think they would sell like hotcakes.
Next Valentine's Day, all hail the chicken.
Yeah, right.
So she has a point in doing this. It's not just a sort of a bit of silliness. AI still has lots of limitations. So you can't...
Making love hearts.
For example, one of the things that we need to look at is neural networks are prone to something called catastrophic forgetting. So forgetting old information as new data is fed in. And AI also has a problem with giraffing. Anybody know what giraffing might be?
Sticking your neck out.
Getting off high shelves.
Yes. No. So it constantly identifies things as giraffes.
Oh, great.
Yeah, or anything unusual. Why might that be?
I don't know. Because it's stupid.
No, what it is, it's trained online, and online people tend to post unusual things more than they'll post a sort of featureless rock or something. They're much more likely to post a giraffe, for example.
I hate it when people post featureless rocks.
Featureless rocks? It's very irritating.
Put some features on that rock, for God's sake.
AI thinks that giraffes are more common than they are, because people on the whole tend to put up unusual things, and therefore it thinks that they are more usual.
I mean, if you live in, like, Namibia or somewhere, you might see giraffe... I mean, I don't know if giraffes live in Namibia. Do they?
Yes.
They do? Yeah. OK.
Let's say
well,
yes.
Then you're going to see a lot...
Zebra.
OK, you're going to see a lot of them. It's just that when you live in Lewisham, you don't see that many of them.
Right.
The old Namibia-Lewisham paradox.
I'd love to see one in Lewisham. I've always thought that fox hunting is fine. They ban it in the country because it's mean. It'd be great in London. It'd be great to have all those guys in the red coats on a horse going racing through.
You say that, but the foxes in London tend to have attitude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've come back from a gig, midnight, there's a fox in my driveway, because I've got money, a big house, and as I go into my drive, the fox is looking at me like that.
Yeah.
What? Walk around me.
Yeah, no, they do have attitude. We've got a fox that it comes and it sits at the back door, basically saying to the dog,
We've got exactly that. We only just got a dog, and it was sleeping on the mat by the back door because it's cool there, and the fox came and just looked at it.
What kind of dog did you get?
It's half spaniel, half husky.
Oh, sweet.
Spusky.
It's a husky, a haniel.
Is that a thing?
It's very pretty. No, it's quite unusual. My daughter wanted a spaniel, my son wanted a husky, and by some miracle we found one of half.
King Solomon.
You sewed two together.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's the front half is the spaniel. Back half is a husky.
See, that was your error. Everybody knows they've got those fluffy little arseholes which get really clogged up. You would have been much better having the front as the husky and the back as the spaniel.
You sewed your dogs the wrong way round, David.
The other two halves are in the freezer, so...
Really? Everybody does not know that they've got a fluffy arsehole. That's not a thing. So, there is a thing now of AI cameras, and they're trained to follow the ball in some football matches. And there was a match at Inverness Caledonian Thistle Football Club, and the AI became fixated on the linesman's bald head, and the camera would do nothing. It would do nothing. Let's focus on it. OK, after all that AI nonsense, here's a perfectly sensible question written by a real-life human. What use is a penguin erector at cucumber time?
Penguin's fallen over.
Yes. Why would the penguin fall over?
Is it because, well, A, they're stupid, and...
Come on, Stephen, you're not making any friends. You've got a big house and you hate penguins.
If they look up at something,
yes,
they just sort of fall backwards, don't they?
So if an aeroplane flies over Antarctica, they all go on their back?
It's a myth.
Oh, is it?
It's a myth, yeah, I'm afraid so. But what I like is that this doesn't stop newspapers reporting on these things. In 2018, a Scots newspapers reported that Edinburgh Zoo denied employing a penguin erector, following rumour it had hired staff to pick up penguins who had fallen over after looking up at aeroplanes.
I believed that story. I've told thousands of people that's true.
None of them believed you.
Yeah.
Because originally I thought it was something to do with making sure that the cucumber was straight.
Yeah.
Because we all love a straight cucumber.
We all love it. Speaking on behalf of the nation again.
Who doesn't love a straight cucumber?
No one's ever expressed a preference. Literally no one.
Basically, we're talking about silly newspaper stories, and they take place in the silly season, which in lots of countries is known as cucumber time.
Oh, great.
So, as well as being the title of today's show, silly season refers to that period in late summer when people are on holiday and there's not really much news around, so they'll put in a thing. And it first came out as an idea in 1861. Also known as giant gooseberry season, so lots of outsized fruits get stories about them. The sightings of sea serpents and mermaids, showers of frogs, and lots of countries call it cucumber time. So in the Netherlands, komkommertje, and in Poland and Germany and so on. And nobody really knows why.
Because cucumbers are funny.
Apart from when they're bendy, which isn't funny at all.
No, we don't like that.
I'll tell you what's not funny,
No.
a gooseberry. He's not impressed at all by his own gooseberry, that chap.
Good,
That's not a gooseberry.
It is, darling. It's a giant gooseberry. It's worth a headlight.
The silly season thing has worked completely on Alan, because you said silly seasons are times when silly stories emerge, like a giant gooseberry, and then 5 minutes later, Alan's gone, that gooseberry's enormous!
But I'm slightly confused.
You're not coming across that way.
No. No, but is it silly season because they're not true stories?
Sometimes they're not true, and sometimes they're just something that might not normally be thought of as newsworthy.
Right.
Okay.
It's like all the and finalies get the first slot.
Yeah. So there have been some marvellous silly season headlines from recent years. There was the World Oink-exclusive we had. The Mail saves the bacon of the Tamworth 2.
Oh, that's about pigs.
Do you remember the story? They were called Butch and Sundance, and they escaped from an abattoir in Wiltshire.
Oh, no.
In 1988. Oh, my God. They swam a river and went on the run for a week, and 100 journalists tracked it across the country.
The ham swam to Tamworth.
The newspapers printed full-page maps of the route that they were taking, and eventually the Daily Mail bought them to save their bacon.
Right.
They escaped from an abattoir.
Abattoir, yeah.
I mean, why didn't the others follow? Why just 2 of them? Did they lock the door behind them?
We've got to go now. Now. Come on. All right, we'll just go, the 2 of us. Fine. I think it went something like... a little something like this.
But it's a marvellous time for publicists, because if they've got a show that they want to promote, this is a great way to do it. In August 2005, The Sun reported that a constellation that looked like Richard Wilson of One Foot in the Grave could be seen by anyone with a keen eye. But it was actually publicity for Summer Nights of Gold on UK TV Gold.
But he couldn't believe it.
I love those ones where they're like face of Jesus found in, you know, apple or something like that, or in KFC bucket.
Do you know I was one of those? So
Someone found your face?
No. Sunday Sport ran a picture and a full-page
Picture
story.
of you in the Sunday Sports Centre.
Well, no, what it was, they claimed to have found my face on Meghan Markle's knee.
There you are.
I've never been so pleased. It's like the Turin Shroud all over again.
That's amazing. Who's on her other knee?
I don't know who I'm sharing with. I don't know. Either Alan on the other knee.
Do you think we could escape and be tracked across the country and then eventually bought by the Daily Mail?
It does beg the question, Sandy, if you were to kneel down, would your face hurt?
I mean, that's literally like one of the questions I've got in here. If Meghan Markle were to kneel down with Sandy Toksvig's face, I don't... This is not really a silly story, except it's one of those stories you think would not necessarily make the news. August 2001, there's a man called Philip Peters, and he returned to his parked car, OK? Now, he had parked it in a perfectly legal place, but while he'd been gone, contractors in West London had winched his Peugeot off the ground, painted 2 yellow lines underneath it, put it back down again, and he'd got a ticket.
Wow.
Yeah.
We once did an episode of Jonathan Creek, and the scene was Jonathan Creek gets a clamp off. But
very dramatic plot.
Very dramatic. I'd lie down and fiddle about with keys. Anyway, the prop department had put a couple of fake yellow lines down, and the traffic warden came along and gave us a ticket.
I parked a car and they painted the lines underneath the car and we got a ticket, even though we pulled out, took a photograph of our car, took a photograph of the gap where our wheels were, and then we had to spend about 4 months going to a small claims court trying to clear our name.
So the same thing happened to you as happened literally in that...
I didn't get winched up because Lewisham, they're quite lazy, but they just painted round it.
Namibia, it's very different, obviously.
Did you have to pay in the end?
No, we won, but the whole thing was so stressful.
I should say, I didn't realise we were meant to bring our own stories. I once swam up the Thames with a couple of pigs, and it was very dramatic. I had to take a day off work.
I don't think of pigs as swimmers, do you?
No, in Swiss Family Robinson, the pigs swim from the boat to the shore.
Oh, in that case, I'm completely sold on the story. If it's in the Swiss Family Robinson.
What's the Swiss Family Robinson?
How old are you?
To be fair, it was written in about 1838.
Now, which pointless sea can be found off the coast of Cornwall?
Is it the silent C in the word silly? Of Scilly Isles?
Darling, very good.
Oh,
You got a bit overexcited. I thought you were going to have an asthma attack.
Well, I was remembering a holiday to Tresco in 2005.
Did you have fun?
I had a terrific time.
It's wonderful.
Fell off a quad bike and cried. Listened to a lot of James Blunt. Great time.
So the Scilly Isles used to be spelt silly, as in S-I-L-L-Y. There was no C in it. But the locals added the C around 50s and 70s because the word silly at one time had meant sort of happy and blessed. But it had become a word that meant foolish, and they didn't want to be described as such, so they put the letter C in. The Solonians, as the islanders are called, refer to the Isles of Scilly, or just Scilly, but not the Scilly Isles. Have you been, darling, to the Scilly Isles? No. Stunning. Absolutely stunning.
Or as they say, stunning.
Stunning, yeah. I tell you something that can be found in the area, in the waters there, which I do think is amazing, is the salp. S-A-L-P. Anybody heard of salp? I love this. So it's hollow, it's jellyfish-like, barrel-shaped, it's transparent, it's a sea creature. So it's a group of animals known as a sea squirt. But basically, it's the size of about the palm of your hand. It occurs worldwide, but in Britain it's mostly found in the water around Scillies and Cornwall and so on. Basically, it's a tube with an opening at either end, and it moves by jet propulsion. So it pumps water through itself by contracting bands of muscle that ring the body. When they swim together, it's a bit like synchronised swimming, because each member of the chain continues to function as a separate individual, but they swim with their own rhythm, but at a really steady pace together. We've got some film showing them doing this. It is... Do you not think that is miraculous?
Oh, it's like a murmuration.
Yes. Isn't it?
I've used condoms.
You see... They're often described as jellyfish, these salps, but the truth is that salps and humans are actually more closely related to each other than either is to a jellyfish, because the salp larvae have spinal cords.
I'll bear that in mind. Next time someone's having a go at me for getting off with a salp, I'll
Yes,
say,
okay.
I'm more like this than that. That's like a jellyfish.
Than a
actually. Thank you very
jellyfish.
much. It's not the same as getting off with a jellyfish.
Yeah.
Look at the spinal cord.
Yeah. it's only the young salp that have spinal cords, but adults never.
Oh, great.
You're going to get double bad for that one.
God.
There's no way to view new species. I wonder what they'd be like as a sexual partner.
They reproduce in alternating generation of clones and individuals. So a solitary mother gives birth asexually to thousands of young clones, all female, which then form chains. And these chains are then fertilised en masse, and they swim up to the surface through clouds of sperm deposited by chains of men. I mean...
What?
Not men,
I'm
males. Not men, males.
Yes,
Male salp.
to be absolutely clear.
Sorry.
Ivo goes for a swim, and then next summer there's like half Ivo.
Here come the salp! Oh!
Each female clone then has a single female offspring before turning into a male. I mean, it's just a very interesting...
There was rather a good Attenborough thing on the other day where all these fish gather and then the sperm is a wash. There's sperm everywhere in the sea and they're all fertilising, and then these giant stingray-type fish come in and eat the sperm. Really? And it only happens once a year at a particularly high tide when the moon's in the right place, and they just happen to know it's going to happen.
But you can understand it once a year, because once you've had that one time, you think, oh...
Yeah. I mean, part of me thinks, so they're thinking, yay, it's the time when we get the sperm. Or are they thinking, oh, no, it's sperm day. I have nothing to eat the day before. Take something sweet with you, because it's very, very...
Anyway, we should really love salps. I am slightly obsessed with them.
I love them.
I already love them, but the other reason is that they help with carbon capture. This is a weird thing to think about. Their faecal pellets are very large and very heavy, and they sink down to the seabed, as indeed do the dead salps themselves, and take thousands of tons of carbon with them. Because apparently nothing eats a dead salp.
Just when you thought salps couldn't get any more sexy.
Goodness
You're far
me.
from Ivo.
Getting off with the salp and then watching it race its own poo to the bottom of the ocean. What a treat.
Now, these are 5 S words which are going to come up on the screen. Can you rank them in order of silliness? Who wants to have a go? Alan, have a go.
well, skunk poople's the most silly word there.
Skunk poople is
Definitely.
very silly, yes.
I mean, I know what a shart is, but I don't think I want to say it out loud on television.
What is it?
Use the expression fecal pellet.
It's when you think you're going to be doing a fart, but you actually fecally pelletise your pants.
Yeah.
You pelletise?
I've pelletised my pants again.
I
Chunks up,
suspect
isn't
you've
it?
pelletised your pants. You wanted to do a skunk poople, but you subbed it. You sectorian.
Right, let's have a quick look. The correct order for these words is...
Of silliness.
skunk poople
That's the silliest, yeah.
and subvic are both silly. Sectory and suspect are not silly.
No.
And shart, its status as a word is undetermined as to whether it's silly or not, because it sounded rude and might amuse people for that reason rather than its silliness. So, these were researchers in 2015 at the University of Alberta. They were trying to establish whether you could objectively measure the silliness of words, and participants were shown various computer-generated nonsense words and asked to rate how humorous they actually were, and the results were remarkably consistent. Made-up words tend to be measurably funnier the more unusual their combination of letters. So the less you expect to hear certain letters together, the more amused you're going to be by them. And once they figured the pattern out, researchers were able to predict whether test subjects would find a word funny with an accuracy of about 92%. Subvic and Skunkoople were classified as silly, along with Quingle, Probble, Finglem and Wook. I have no idea what I'm saying. I could be saying terrible things. Anyway, Sectorian and Suppect are not silly, since they're more similar to actual word forms.
I actually thought, Sandy, it could be a little trick you were playing on us. I thought there might be Scandinavian words.
No, Scandinavian words are all terribly sensible. Anyway, what's the downside of being sucked in a salt mine?
Oh, God.
Oh.
A lot of men would say it doesn't matter where that's at, right?
Yeah. I
Wow.
can imagine the downside of getting sucked anywhere.
Do you not think it looks like his wife was just there a minute ago and he's going, darling, darling? This is in Havana in 2005. It was after Hurricane Wilma, and you can see that the water is swelling down, probably down into a drainage system there. So it's worth thinking about how water can make that swift movement. This is an absolutely true story. Lake Pena, which is in Louisiana, was a shallow freshwater lake, and it sits above, well, it sat above a large underground salt mine. So in 1980, there's an oil company, and they're drilling in the lake, and they inadvertently bored a hole straight into the mine, and the lake water drained into the hole, a bit like the photograph we saw at the very beginning. It created a 400-metre in diameter whirlpool. It sucked in the drilling platform, 11 barges, a tugboat, many trees, and 65 acres of the Rip Van Winkle Botanic Gardens, including all of their greenhouses.
Wow.
From one drilling. Do you not think
Did all the people get away?
everybody was absolutely fine, remarkably.
extraordinary.
Not even the people working underground got hurt.
What are the Rip Van Winkle greenhouses?
No, the Rip Van Winkle Botanic Gardens of Louisiana.
Who's Rip Van Winkle?
Are you serious?
I'm very sorry.
Oh, Rip Van Winkle is a wonderful American tale about a man who goes to sleep and sleeps for... You don't know this story? No.
Watch that and read Swiss Family Robinson. You're
Yes,
in for a
I've
treat.
got a lovely lockdown night in ahead of me. That's very nice.
The flow of the canal, which normally drained the lake into the Gulf of Mexico, reversed. It sucked seawater into the lake and fed this terrible maelstrom, which then became a 50-metre deep waterfall, and the water then erupted upwards through the mine shafts in the form of 400-foot geysers. And remarkably, nobody was injured, including 55 miners who were working underground. But what was a 3-metre deep freshwater lake is now a 400-metre deep saltwater lake. Do you not think that's extraordinary?
That is extraordinary.
It sounds mythological, doesn't it? It sounds like those sort of maelstroms that you hear about. I mean, there are genuinely natural whirlpools which exist in some seas and rivers. Norway has two of the biggest, Saltstraumen and the Moskstraumen, but the number 3 slot is taken in the Hebrides by Corrie Vrecken. There we are, the Corrie Vrecken.
Oh, look.
They did a documentary in 2000, television documentary. They threw a mannequin into the Corrie Vrecken with a depth gauge attached to it, and it came to the surface some distance away. It had been dragged along the bottom at a depth of 860 feet.
Wow.
And now for some silly misunderstandings. It's general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. What's the most popular Volkswagen? Ooh. Yes.
Polo.
Polo. Johnny knows the Polo.
It's the Beetle.
Any more for any more?
Oh,
I would have
it's a
said
Golf.
I think
Passat. Scirocco.
Tiguan.
Now you're just showing.
Combi bus.
Oh, no. So we're measuring by the number of items sold rather than by the value, and VW sells more sausages than cars. So I have some here. These are Volkswagen Original Teil, the original part. They're curry-flavoured sausages. They originally produced in VW factories to feed the staff. They became so popular, they're now sold by them for €10 a pack, and they're given as gifts in VW dealerships in 11 countries, but not in the UK. When you buy a car, you get given free sausages, and the VW base in Wolfsburg has got 30 butchers on the payroll, and they produce these. I think it's wonderful. These are original Volkswagen sausages. But I've got you something, Alan, that I think you're going to really like. Which fits in with the sausages, but yet vegetarian.
Is it a live pig?
No, so this is marvellous. This is about corporate sausage tie-ins, OK? There is a football club called Bedale AFC. They're a non-league football club, and they're from North Yorkshire, and they have a sausage sponsor, a local sausage company called Heck. And in 2017, they took to the pitch, emblazoned the kit. This is the one on the right, with hundreds of sausages and pink shorts. It was described as the worst football kit ever. Managed to make the news as far as sort of Turkey and Canada. And then 2018, they looked like hot dogs. That's the next one along. 2019, it was bangers and mash. And then in 2020, each strip featured a big carrot for a vegetarian thing. They've got one more they're thinking of, which is to do a toad in the goal strip, the goalie. But we're very pleased we've managed to get hold of for you. Look, darling, sausage and mash kit for you with peas. So I hope that works for you.
I love it.
Yes, I think it's rather fine, isn't it?
Those four lads don't look very happy about it.
VW's worst product is a bit of a banger, if we're honest. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. How should you handle rare old books?
Oh, in white gloves, don't you? White gloves.
No. Not at all. Why not at all?
In the British Library, it's all very dim and the light and the air temperature and all that.
Yeah, but in fact, on your hands, you should have nothing at all. You should have extremely clean but naked hands.
I like the phrase extremely clean but naked hands.
But naked hands, that's one.
Butt naked.
So places... but naked hands. So organisations like the National Trust, the Smithsonian in the United States, the British Library and so on, they don't approve of white gloves because you lack the dexterity and the tactile of fingers, so you're more likely to tear a page, and they're slippery, so you might drop the book if you've got gloves on, and also there are tiny fragments of pigment more likely to stick to the material of the glove than if you've just got your skin
But
behind.
you definitely shouldn't do this.
No, that's definitely a mistake, and gloves can also retain dirt.
Also, you look like a creepy mime artist.
It is quite creepy, isn't it?
So just stick to snooker referee.
Just keep your hands butt naked and get on with it.
Now, here's an easy one. Ignorance of the law is...
Not an excuse.
But it should be an excuse.
Well, it can be. That's the thing. I mean, it's a terribly well-known legal axiom. But lots of legal systems...
Why is there a badger? What's going on?
It's Toad of Toad Hall.
Oh, it's Toad.
Toad of Toad Hall,
I
darling.
couldn't see Toad in
Yeah.
the dot.
So many legal systems, including ours, have recognised exceptions, which slightly sort of erode the principle. In fact, the Germans, the French, the Austrians, they have criminal codes explicitly recognising a defence of a reasonable mistake of the law. And in South Africa, as long as the accused is genuinely ignorant of the law, that is a defence. Which brings us to this silly thing we do at the end of the show of giving everybody meaningless scores. So in first place, Captain Sensible tonight, well, I'll be damned, with -5, it's Holly! Second is the Slightly Foolish with -6, it's Alan! Second! Third is the Pretty Dopey with -13, Ivo! Tonight's Silly Billy with -27. It's Stephen! It's thanks to Ivo, Holly, Stephen and Alan, and I leave you with this silly sign-off from the French epicure Anthelme Brillat-Savarin. Burgundy makes you think of silly things. Bordeaux makes you talk about them. And champagne makes you do them. Cheers and good night.